G'day trendsetters, Greg here from Fishplate Films and welcome back to episode 20 of the BNSF Birdwood Sub division. Yes, episode 20. We finally got out of our teenage years. Oh, they were rather troublesome. Anyway, let's have a look behind me here. Oh, it's gone out of shot nearly. When the U-boats are in town, there's stuff going down, baby. That's right. If you see behind me here, we've been very busy on the Birdwood Sub to a degree. And we've been putting in some concrete ties. We finally convinced management to get into the 20th century. So we'll have a look at that. And while we've been putting in some concrete ties or concrete track, we've redesigned this whole section behind me here. The big junction that sends you up onto the helix or spits you down the Birdwood Sub. So I'll have a look at that too. So let's get into it.
Now, if you can remember in an episode, a fair way back now, I installed a crossover where that cork is there. It's about a number 5. The Tilly termites that I use are European standard, so these were in between a number 4 and number 6. And it was okay, it served its purpose, but I was getting sick of it, and I decided to move that crossover down to a number 6 further down and install a high-speed crossover up further. Now here's the high-speed crossover here. This allows trains to go from the up or down, as we say here, or north and south tracks onto the helix or up and down the helix. And this is much better because it's out of the way of all the other crossovers, and we can make use of 2 crossovers further down that allows us to have an extra reversing loop.
Now the old layout, the main line comes straight up into here and into the yards, into West Birdwood yards, and there was a turnout sending it off onto the other main here. So we've changed that, and we've curved the main line around and make it a little bit more realistic and make it continue straight on to the westbound main that goes up the helix. And now there's a turnout off into the yard, so that gives us a bit more room here. And I was going to put a little industry here, but I've decided I need more diesel service area. So this is our small but serviceable diesel service area. And there'll be a platform in the middle here, you know, with some tanks and stuff, all that stuff that I don't have yet. Also what we've done is put another crossover in down here that allows trains to go from the east to the west heading in this direction, which they couldn't do before. So, well, actually they could up further, but then they couldn't get around to get back to here. So it actually, coming up the Tarragindi cutoff, which is a reverser, you know that if you've watched Digitrack's AR1 auto reversers, tips and tricks, yes. The Tarragindi cutoff is actually a reversing loop, even though it's a straight piece of track. And that allows you to turn a train around, but unfortunately, you couldn't turn it back. So you ended up going around another reversing loop and going the same way, which, depending which way. Anyway, it's confusing, trendsetters, don't worry about it. It's much better now. We can have a train and turn a train around either way now. Thanks to this new crossovers here, which we'll have a look at. Thank you. Hooked on a feeling.
Now, trendsetters, trains coming up the Tarragindi cutoff can cross over onto the main here from the west to the east. And if they like, or if they need to, they can go through this crossover here and continue around on the lower level of the layout, but having turned themselves around. So that's much better, trendsetters. Now trendsetters, I'm almost finished replacing all the foam roadbed on the layout. So I've got one passing loop to go, and that's all the foam replaced with Midwest Cork, which is fantastic. And one thing that I've been able to do now that I'm using the cork is use concrete ties. Now I tried using concrete track or concrete tied track on my friend's layout using the foam, and because the clips that hold the track down, the pandrail clips as they're called, we call them over here pandrail clips, it's very easy to dislodge the track from the sleepers, and all you need to do is spike a little bit too hard on the foam and it compresses and you've clipped the track out of the clips, which is really annoying. But of course on the cork the ties don't compress and you don't have that problem. So what I'm doing is I'm spiking the concrete ties just on the outside with the small spikes, and just pushing them straight through. It's a slightly different plastic than the timber tied, I think, and you can push them through without pre-drilling it if you use the really small spikes, I should say. These ones here, here's one I've prepared earlier, trendsetters. One of these little ones there. Now another thing that I think is essential that you need to do with your concrete ties, concrete track, is give it a bit of a weather, because it looks horrible when you first get it out of the box. So you can see on this one here, all I've done is gone along with a black wash. I actually used my Tamiya panel line, which is a ready-made enamel wash that I use on some of my locos and stuff, and just gone along and give it just a quick wash along the edge here, and it brings out the little pandrail clips, the little pigtail clips. And if you compare that one that's weathered there to this one that isn't, you can't see any of the detail on here, and it looks a lot more toyish, obviously. The rails still need to be weathered, but just doing the pandrail clips, just going along, and you can see I've done the inside too there just a little bit, just with a black wash, really easy, and that'll make it look a little bit more decent until you get into your track weathering and ballasting and all that sort of jazz, man. Now originally this was only going to be a single siding for some switcher engines, because occasionally if we have a long train that comes in this way into West Birdwood Yard, if the yard's full with other cars or another train being made up, the switching engines can't get to this end to pull it out of the arrival tracks and put them into the make-up track. So that was a bit of a problem. So I thought once we move this arrival track into here and we had room, I could put a little siding in and have a couple of switcher engines in there. But then we had even more room, so I decided to put 2 tracks, and now we've got a little diesel facility. And if we do need switches to come from here, once the train comes in, then the switches can come out behind it and switch the train basically from here rather than the other end of the yard. So sort of a 2-pronged attack, trendsetters. Now of course, apart from looking better, trendsetters, the cork gives much better support for turnouts, as I've said before. And even without any ballast, I think it looks a little bit better. And now we finally have somewhere to store our excess locos, which is good, which I've had a bit of trouble with that in the past. And this whole section now looks a lot better and is more serviceable. And I got rid of the low-speed crossover, which has always been a bit of a bugbear for me. And I've been able to use those turnouts. One of them is into the diesel service area here, and the other one will be going into our small industry over the other side of the layout. Oh, what's going on up here? The boys have made it up the hills eventually. I think it took about 15 minutes. So this is our second last passing loop to do. And then that will be it, trendsetters. Apart from sections that you can't see, obviously. There's a few sections there that I can't physically get into to replace the foam, so they'll just have to stay, but there's no turnouts there, so that's fine. Now, Trent said it's one of the reasons we haven't seen many updates from the Birdwood Sub is, as you know, I've been doing my kitchen for my new housemates, and also it's been extremely hot here. Today it's 30, which is, I think, high 90s or something, is it? I have to work it out. But we've had a few days here where it's been nearly up to 40 and the humidity's been crazy. So I've actually been laying track on those days because, as you know, track expands quite a lot in this layout. So I try and lay track on hot days so I know it's expanded as far as it can go and I don't need to worry about leaving gaps. I know it's just going to shrink then. So I try not to lay track on cold days. If I do, I make sure I leave gaps at every second length of track, because here and well everywhere track, like the real thing, expands and contracts. There you go. Well, Trent says, not a lot of how-to stuff in this one, but I've been very busy doing the foam replacement and the track, so you all know how to do that. We've seen that, so that's no drama. Now, did you like the horn on that Kato SD70 Mac? A little bit different than standard. It is a normal tsunami horn for that locomotive. I forget which one it is now. It's a Nathan something. I'll have to look it up. But I have retuned it, gone into the bowels of the reverbs, and one thing I'll say about lock sound decoders is, apart from their good motor control out of the box, which you can replicate with tsunamis, the lock sound have always had fantastic horns, and the tsunamis, some of their horns are, you know, a bit bland. Well, I've just had a quick muck around with that one, and I'll be bringing you a video on how to boost up your horn reverb and make them sound almost as good as the lock sound, I reckon, on some of them. And that's coming up in a video shortly. Also, what else we got? We're installing Tsunami Sound in a Atlas Genset 2 switcher. Sure, that'll be good. And with some help from my good friend Rara Matthias in Germany, we'll be putting a Tsunami Sound decoder, a GM1000, in an MTH SD70H, SD70 Ace. My first MTH locomotive. Very impressed with them so far, but the running will be the proof in the pudding. The decoders are reasonably easy to install once you get the body shell off, except for the ditch light, so we're having a bit of trouble with that. But that's coming up. And what else is coming up? A switching ops coming up with the grain facility. How about that? So a lot of you are saying, we're going to do a switching op. So in the next month or two, we'll be doing a switching op in the grain facility. So that's it for now. I've got to get cracking and finish these two last sidings with the foam replacement, and then we can get into some serious running. So thanks for watching, and hello to all my friends in the US and Canada that I met, and I'm saving up and planning my next trip back very soon because I can't stand being here.
narrow gauge hell. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care in the snow, you guys over there in the northern hemisphere, and we'll see you very, very soon. Hooroo for now.